we're open ocean, and the next, we're drifting towards Australia, and we don't have any means of telling anybody we're in trouble. Fiji doesn't have Coast Guard and we didn't have a radio or EPIRB. This is,
you'd have just
20 years ago.
Just as much luck calling Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. For those of you out there that are truck guys like me, I want to talk to you about one of our newest sponsors, Decked. If you don't know Decked, they make bomb-proof drawer systems to keep your gear organized and safely locked away in the back of your truck. Clothes, rifles, packs, kill kits can all get organized and at the ready so you don't get to your hunting spot and waste time trying to find stuff. We all know that guy. Don't be that guy. They also have a line of storage cases that fit perfectly in the drawers. We use them for organizing ammunition, knives, glassing equipment, extra clothing, and camping stuff. You can get a 2-drawer system for all dimensions of full-size truck beds, or a single drawer system that fits mid-size truck beds. And, maybe best of all, they're all made in the USA. So, get decked and get after it. Check them out at decked.com. Shipping is always free. Well, sitting here at elk camp this morning with Mr. Mike Spalding. Mike, you got your second bull elk that I've been a part of yesterday. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. What a privilege to be able to hunt this beautiful country, and especially with such competent, friendly, fun, wild-ass guides. And Nash, you're a wealth of information and efficiency, and we couldn't have done it without your expert help.
Oh, that's very kind. But I'm pretty sure you were doing just fine there. That bull last night, he went 50 yards, not even. Yeah, love that.
Nothing better than getting a nice ethical kill.
Yeah,
and the worst thing in hunting is if you wound an animal and you don't recover it. It's a very sad day. So yesterday, being able to execute a good kill and recover the animal, and me and my family and friends are going to be enjoying elk meat for a while.
Yeah, 744-pound bull, nice big bull. Where'd you grow up?
So I'm born and raised in Oahu.
Okay.
And been a lifelong lover of living in Hawaii. Have lots of friends on all the islands, and I can't imagine living anywhere else.
So you were born right after World War II?
1947.
1947. So you're 78?
77.
77?
I'm a baby product of the baby boomer generation.
What brought your parents to Oahu?
So my mom, it's interesting, she was on tour in the Pacific Theater as she was a nurse, but she was with Bob Hope, cheering up because she also was a movie actress, a B movie actress, so cheering up the troops, and she spent a lot of time in the hospitals.
Oh, really?
Cheering up the men. She was a beautiful young movie star, not a star, but a movie actress. And on her way back to Hawaii, she met my dad at a party in Honolulu. They got married, and I'm a product of that.
Yeah, awesome.
So I've always lived in Hawaii. I live on Maui now.
Yeah, you're big on what it means to be a Hawaiian and Hawaiian spirit and aloha and all that, right? That's something that people don't understand. They think aloha is a word.
Yeah. We try to live that spirit, where you are you're kind to people. And I'll give you an example. I think the best revenge when somebody is rude to you, and it happens, it happened to us recently, is to be nice back. And I think if you take the bait, and if somebody's rude to you and you're rude back to them, you lower yourself to their level.
Right.
And that happened to us recently. And this gal was berating us for looking at some land. I'm in the real estate business, and she thought we were infringing on her little kingdom, and so she just, went off on us using the F word and whatnot. And I just said, just have a very nice day, and left, And I felt good about that. But most people would have an opposite reaction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do you any good.
Right. Yeah. A lot of folks in Hawaii are territorial, and I understand that coming from a rural area myself. But there's also this other side that is very welcoming and inviting and generous.
That very true. I think that if you are respectful, like there's a Hawaiian word in called makana. So if you come to somebody's house, you bring a gift. If you're like, we went to a sacred place, called Luahini Vai on the Big Island. We kayaked in there, and it's a private, sanctuary and a pool. And we went up to the house, and the caretaker was there, and we brought them a slab of fresh ono that we had caught. Mm-hmm. And we says, we'd like to give this to you as a gift, and do you mind if we go in the pool? He says, not at all. It was like, if we had been disrespectful and went in the pool and made a mess, and it would have been the complete opposite reaction. But we got the welcoming. So I think it's about how you approach people, and it's not exclusive to Hawaii. I think it applies to all kinds of places. I mean, if you, for example, you're in the hunting, ranching world, if somebody comes to you and says, I notice your fence needs to be fixed, you mind if me and my boys come over there and fix that fence, and we'd love to go hunting if you don't mind. And, it's kind of that kind of exchange and trade that is a respectful request with, you're not trying to be like, hey, you owe something to me. For example, I had a guy climbing up in one of my avocado trees, past it, no trespassing signs, stealing avocados. And my daughter went up to him and said, hey, this is, we sell these avocados, and he goes, he started giving her attitude like, what, you stole this land, or, how come you guys are, instead of being, respectful, he was the opposite. That's the kind of guy you want to call the cops on and bust, but
sure. Whereas if somebody came up and asked and said, hey, I'm kind of hungry, I noticed you have some avocados, you mind if I pick a couple?
We would
cover that guy in avocados.
I mean, like, we have mango trees at our office, and it's, we're kind of in Wailuku town, and we have these signs, ask, don't steal. Mm-hmm. And everybody that comes and asks us, we give them mangoes.
Yeah.
But we also have people that, would rather, come when we're not there and steal our mangoes. So it's just, it goes both ways.
Sure.
And I always prefer the way of aloha. That's what you're talking about. And that's how we try to roll. We're not perfect, but we try to wear that on our sleeve.
Yeah. When did you start swimming?
Started swimming. I remember the first time I started swimming, I fell into a swimming pool, and I had to swim to save my life. And so that was like, I was maybe 5 or 6. But I definitely I have 7 grandchildren, and we start them swimming as early as, 1 year old.
Right.
In fact, Lauren Spalding is a famous water athlete, canoe paddler. She actually was semi-water safe at 1 year old, which mm-hmm. was, really kind of amazing that she could get to that point at such a young age. Because all the other grandchildren, it was a struggle. for them to be able to swim when they're 1 year old. It's more like 2 or 3 when they started getting to be water safe.
That's pretty amazing. I've seen some of those videos where like these little tiny infants get thrown in the water and they figure it out.
Yeah, they figure it out.
It's pretty cool. And the earlier you can safely develop that comfort, I think the better the platform is. When did you start thinking about swimming distance?
So I swam in high school, and I played water polo, and I played water polo in college. And after college, I started swimming to augment my surfing abilities, because swimming is an important, criteria. Paddling and swimming are very compatible. So I started swimming, as a regular recreational, exercise hobby. So it's been a lifelong passion of mine. But I did my first, one of the things that, that people ask me, what are you famous for? What do you do? And basically I'm a marathon swimmer. That's what I am well known for. But there's a lot of other things that are even more interesting than just the marathon swimming, because that's kind of a small silo of my life.
The Six Ranch podcast is brought to you by Nick's Handmade Boots, a family-owned company in Spokane, Washington. For many of my listeners, you have waited and prepared all year for this. Whether your pursuit is with a rifle or a bow, early or late season, big game or birds, another hunting season is finally upon us. Nick's Boots and the Six Ranch want to wish you luck as you head out into the field. This season, I'm wearing the Nick's Boots Game Breakers, beginning with the archery elk season. Having worn this boot throughout the summer around the Six Ranch, I continue to be impressed with how quiet the boot is. The rough-out leather laces, and 365 stitch-down construction create a simple boot that is supportive, durable, comfortable, and most importantly, quieter than most synthetic hunting boots. For 60 years, Nick's has been building work boots for wildland firefighters, tradespeople, hunters, and ranchers, as well as heritage styles for anyone who values quality footwear made in America. Visit nicksboots.com today to find your next pair of high-quality American-made work boots. Add a pair of boots and a work belt to your cart and use the code 6RANCH. That's the number 6 and the word ranch to receive the belt for free.
To get back to answer your question, I was in my 20s when I did my first channel, swimming from Lanai to Maui, and there was two of us swimming. We had an escort boat and a kayak, and we got separated. And so I'm being escorted by a one-person kayak on a 9-mile swim, and I got bitten hit by a Portuguese man-of-war. Some people call them blue bottles, but extremely painful. And one of the antidotes for the pain, so once we got to shore, so that was my first channel crossing, got to shore, and warm water takes away the sting. So
okay.
What the remedy has always been, you pee on it because it's warm. So I'm like, feel like I'm on fire, and there's these Japanese fishermen on the side of the, they're fishing there where I came in, and so I take them a cup, I said, hey, I got these Portuguese man-of-war stings on my body. I'm really sore. Can I get some pee from one of you guys? No way! No way! I couldn't beg up, any pee in the bottle. And so anyway, that was my first channel swim. And then Linda Kaiser, who became one of my partners in channel swimming, I met her, and she says, Mike, can you arrange for a escort boat? I want to swim from Maui to Molokai. It's called a Pailolo channel. And Pai in Hawaiian means slap, and Lolo means silly. So it's a rough channel. It's got a crosswind and current. And so I arranged for a sailboat to take us across the channel. And so we started in Maui, and we got about halfway through the channel, and she taps me, and she says, Mike, shark, And so we stop in the water, and the escort boat just keeps going. They leave us because they don't, they're not paying attention. It's a 6-hour swim. We're like 3 hours into it. And I think it was a bronze whaler. It was a big critter. Came up. And so we made big body. We got together, and we just was very still in the water. And it came up and made about 2 or 3 passes. And I thought for sure she's going to want to get out. But, she says, okay, let's keep going. And we kept going and landed on the beach at a place called Honamuni. And I met this guy, Hal Fuji, there. And we became lifelong friends. And, he has a place there. And I visited him on many occasions. But after that, Linda would call me up and say, okay, Mike, what's going to be our next channel? And, okay, let's do Molokai to Lanai. So we do that. And then we're the first to swim from Kaho'olawi to Lanai. We were the first to swim from Kauai to Ni'ihau. So we slowly started knocking off all the easy channels. And I wouldn't say any of them are easy. None of them are easy. But the harder ones are the Molokai, the Ka'ivi, and that means the bones. That channel is, it's it's 27 miles. It took me 14 and a quarter hours to do it. And when Linda and I were swimming it, she swallowed a jellyfish, and she really got sick. She started to, shake and whatnot. She couldn't continue. I thought for sure she was going to want to go ashore because she might die, but no. She says, Mike, you finish the swim. So we continued, and we ended up getting the current pushing us to China Walls, and we had to actually climb up on the rocks, catch a swell up on the rocks, and scamper up to the dry land to complete the swim. But that was a huge accomplishment, and I thought, well, we're done. No, we want to do Ala Nui Haha. So that is a channel that only 4 people have crossed. And so we started off in the morning.
So where is it?
Ala Nui Haha is from the Big Island, Upolu Point, to Hana or Kipahulu, Kaupo. You hit Maui.
On
so
Maui.
It's a Maui.
So from Big Island to Maui.
So that's a rough channel. That's some of the roughest water anywhere in the world when the smoking trades. We caught it on a very, very calm day, and we started at night, and at 8 o'clock, at 8 o'clock at night, we were 10 miles. I was 10 miles off of Upolu Point, off the Big Island, and I started getting hit by cuttlefish. Were bouncing off my body. 3 or 4 of them were bouncing off my body, and what was happening was that the escort boat had turned on their lights so they could see me.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to get separated out there in the big ocean. And I had a kayaker next to me, and he would, pull ahead of like 100 yards and take it out of gear and wait for me to catch up to him. And so he was having a hard time seeing me during that transition period. So and I had told him, don't turn your lights on because you don't want to attract critters. And the lights attract the squid. And so we were a bait ball going through the water.
Right.
And so I'm going, and squid can bite too. So I'm going, I'm in big trouble because I've got.
Can cuttlefish bite?
Yeah, cuttlefish bite. This is what I'm talking. Cuttlefish. Yeah. So they started hitting me, and I'm going, oh man, I'm really worried. And then all of a sudden I got a puncture in my sternum, and it was super sore. And so I screamed out, and I'm going to get out because there's something nasty down there biting. I'm out of here. So I'm climbing into the kayak, one-man kayak, and there's only room for one of us on there. And I feel something bite my leg.
Yeah.
And it was a cookie cutter shark, and it took a big chunk out of my leg. And I ran my fingers down there, and there's a big divot. I mean, this hole is about 3 inches circumference. And so, I had to leave my legs in the water to keep balancing the kayak, just the 2 of us on there. And so we called the boat in, rescued us, and got back on the boat, and I was thinking to myself, I said, I'm not going to let this incident prevent me from completing all of the channels. I'm going to come back one more time, and I'm only going to come back one more time. If I have another problem for any reason, I'm done. So we got back. I got treated, had the the wound vac, and spent 3 months getting it kind of drying up, and maybe in 4 months I was back in the water. So I trained for another year and a half, and we hit a really good day, and boom, off we went again to go swim it again. This time we started at 3 a.m. I wanted to be in the channel as in much light as possible. Now, cookie cutter sharks are small. They're only like 20 centimeters. They're a very unusual shark. I'd recommend you guys look them up. Google them. Because they're, as far as the shark species, they're very interesting. But instead of having a cookie cutter incident at the same place, about 10 miles off the Big Island, I had a oceanic white tip shark visit me. And if you understand shark behavior, they've probably eaten more humans than any shark. Because like in World War II, when the U-boats were bombing were torpedoing our ships, and the sailors were in the water.
Like the USS Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, there'd be 1,000 people floating around, and the oceanic white tips would come in. There are millions of them. There are less of them now because they've been Finn fishermen have taken them out. So anyway, the oceanic white tip, some shark that I totally respect. So I'm going, oh my God, what is this going to end my life or end my swim? So it cruised around about 4 times, and then it disappeared. So we continued on, and we had very good weather. And then as I was this was a 19-hour swim, 19 and a quarter hour swim. As we approached Maui, we were 5 miles offshore, and I get bumped again. And this is in the dark, like 8 o'clock at night. Something bumps me, and I'm going, oh no, this is, And at this point, I wanted to finish the swim in the worst way. So I skipped my feedings. I put on as much speed as I could. And
because nobody can touch you while you're in the water.
No,
they can hand you water, food.
You
But
can't touch the boat. You can't be touched to make it an official swim. And so I just put on the jets, swam as hard as I could, and at this point I'd already been bitten by a Portuguese man-of-war, and I had stings, along my shoulder and under my arm that were excruciating. But that, I figured if I was going to get into a nest of Portuguese man-of-war, I'd get out. But only had one incident, so I just gritted it, got to shore, got up on the rocks, and completed my swim. And I was so ecstatic for having gotten that done, because that's a very nasty, tough channel to accomplish. Another incident that happened to us that was kind of unusual, like when we were swimming to Ni'ihau.
Which is where?
Ni'ihau is off Kauai. So Kauai to Ni'ihau. That's another channel that we did. We were the first to accomplish that. And that was Barry Brown and Linda Kaiser and myself. And we had a marlin come up and check us out.
Yeah,
now, marlin are, they're the king of the ocean. Nobody can mess with them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they're ready for a fight everywhere they go.
Oh God, yeah, they're really. He's wondering, what the hell are you guys doing in my water? And there was bait the whole time across that channel. There was bait everywhere. So that was kind of an interesting experience to have that happen to us.
You kind of have a reputation, Mike, of boat disasters, and I don't know if that's well earned or not. I don't know, but is your comfort with water so good, because you can just we drop you in the middle of the Pacific and you can swim home again, that if a boat goes down, you're not worried about it?
One of the this is kind of interesting. One of the reasons I trained a lot for swimming was because we did 2 epic shit things. I mean, our motto for our old guys, we call ourselves the silver long bags, is keep doing epic shit. But one of the things that I did, as during my swimming career and just growing up, is I kayaked around all of the Hawaiian Islands.
Okay.
And I would train for swimming to be sure that I would, if I had any kind of a problem with kayaking or canoeing, we did canoeing adventures too, that I could be capable of helping rescue people that I was with, or rescuing my own ass in a situation where I needed to go a long distance.
And what time period would this have been?
This is in the 70s, 80s.
So these aren't
90s.
These aren't the plastic kayaks that people are.
These are Kevlar.
Yeah.
Kevlar expedition kayak. I have one that is a take apart. You sit in it, you put a skirt on it, and I've traveled with it. But traveling around the islands by kayak really gave me a good understanding of how you can navigate around the islands on a larger craft. So once I graduated from the kayak, then I started using a sailing canoe to go around the islands. And we went around the big island, we went around the whole state. We did more ocean voyaging on our sailing canoe unescorted than anybody else. We anchored in places that canoes in modern days haven't ever gone. And we had the most fun doing that. And you talk about spearfishing. I know you love to spearfish. We would depend on spearfishing to feed ourselves. So
right.
we'd be in the most remote areas. We'd come ashore, bring the canoe on shore or anchor it offshore, set up a camp, go spearing, troll for fish, clean, prepare, eat whatever we could catch. That was our protein. So those trips, included my two daughters, my grandchildren as they got older, multiple friends, and these trips would always involve danger and problem solving. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the kids that would come with me, like my friends' kids, they would say after the trip, that was the most fun we've ever had.
Yeah.
Even and then some of them would say, we like it when we have to solve problems, when stuff happens. Like we were sailing across the Pailolo Channel once, and the mast broke, and my grandson was on board, and he still talks about it to this day. So we're in stiff winds, the mast breaks, so we got to kind of jury rig a sail to continue the journey. And so that was amazing part of our lives. And we also, at the same time, we were campaigning our sailing canoe in the sailing canoe races. We were part of the forefront of canoe sailing in Hawaii, and it's a competitive sport. They have about 8 or 9 boats that run a series, and they go from island to island. But when do
they have outriggers, or they have
they have two
keels? What keeps them from tipping over?
No, they have 2 outriggers, so it's like a trimaran.
Yeah.
And they have a 450 square foot sail. It's a kind of a primitive setup.
Is it an upwind sail?
No,
it's a downwind sail.
So it's all these races are downwind.
Okay.
And you're going anywhere from 6 knots to 20 knots, and you're catching waves. You're surfing waves.
20 knots is a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, yeah. We're flying, and you're flying over waves. You're punching into the back of the bow is going into the back of the swell. They're 44-foot vessels.
Wow.
But we were very successful in our sailing. We had a guy named Kapi Shili who was a world-class sailor, paddler, canoe guy. He was a multi-talented ocean guy, waterman. And so he would, he said, hey, you know what, we got to go light. Everybody was going heavy and strong. We went strong and light. And then, everybody would just sit there and sail, 6 guys in the canoe. We paddled and sailed. And so you'd race for 7 or 8 hours, and you might win by 3 minutes, and it made a difference how well you paddle in your course. And so, we kind of dominated that sport for about 5 years. and we did it for a good 10 years. We campaigned, but I'm glad they're still doing it. But like off season, we would take that same canoe that we had perfected all of the parts on it, and then we'd go voyaging around the state, and that was really great memories. And so then we decided, let's go do something a little more radical. Let's go. So we bought a canoe from Nappy Napoleon, and we fitted it up with a canvas and all of our rigs to make it a trimaran. Made another ama, and we shipped it to Lakemba in Fiji in the Lau group. And for 3 summers, we'd go down there. And I had a good friend, Jeff Johnson, and my daughter Nicole was on these trips, and my good friend Gaylord Wilcox. And we'd always have a Fijian. We'd recruit a Fijian and to come with us. So be 5 of us from Hawaii and 1 Fijian. And then we would, from Lakemba, we would go spend 2 or 3 weeks, going from island to island. And we'd always bring gifts to the chief. We'd bring and do a ceremony, and Nicole would chant. They really got a kick out of that. She'd chant in Hawaiian, and we would catch fish, trolling, spearing, and share the fish with the village. And then we would take them on our boat, show them how the canoes could be used as sailing, because they lost their canoe culture. So on the last trip, we decided to take the canoe back to Suva to give it to a canoe club there. So we had to do a 50-mile crossing. And so we came to an island, and we got some bad weather. So we had to kind of just stay at that island for 6 or 7 days. And the weather just started to turn. And they said, okay, it's just like Captain Cook. We're tired of you guys being around here. Time for you guys to leave. The weather's down. Bye. We love you, but, see you later. So we pushed off, and we were in about 10 to 15 knots of wind. We're sailing to the next island. It's 50 miles. And we get about 7 miles off that island, and the front ama, which is a flotation device, starts to crack on the front. And that's our, it's a safety device. This is not a trimaran. This is just a regular outrigger canoe with one flotation device and a sail. And we had a small motor that was giving us some problems because by this time of the trip, it had a lot of salt water in the carburetor. So the ama starts to crack, and it's a hollow ama. And I'm in the back there steering, and I'm petrified that the ama is going to fill with water because it's hollow. And it's been sitting in the sun for 3 years waiting for us, to do these trips. So it's brittle. That's why it cracked. And so our friend Rufus Kimura, he jumps in with a bungee cord. He starts to strap, relash it. But because the front had given away, the back cracked. So I jumped in, and I'm grabbing the rope. They got about a 50-foot rope, and it's coiled up. So I'm holding the ama, and I'm trying to get the rope undone with one hand and untangle it. And I finally get it, untangled, and I tie a bowline, and I start to lash the back. And sure enough, we get the back lashed. The front's lashed. It's not leaking. But we're limping along, and I'm not positive it's not going to start taking on water because it had been cracked pretty severely.
And you're in open ocean now.
We're open ocean, and the next, we're drifting towards Australia, and we don't have any means of telling anybody we're in trouble. Fiji doesn't have Coast Guard and we didn't have a radio or EPIRB. This is,
you'd have just
20 years ago.
Just as much luck calling Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm there with my daughter, my friends.
And how old's
I'm
Nicole
the captain.
right now?
She's 16, and I am mortified. I hope none of you guys have ever had that feeling where your gut is turning, and you think you might lose one of your kids. I mean, that's the worst. Not only kids, yourself, everybody. We're going to go down because of whatever blame you're going to catch as a captain.
Because you're pushing the envelope of doing epic shit and
went a bit
too far.
Might have gone over. Yeah. So we're starting to throw our dive weights over. We're making the canoe lighter, and we're just praying that the ama doesn't fill up with water, and that I have that mortified feeling, and Nicole is sitting up in the front, my daughter. She turns around, she looks at me with a big smile, and she points her finger at me with a big smile. And everybody's listening, and what is Nicole going to say? And she says, Daddy, when we get back to Maui, you owe me a truck. and everybody just cracked up. Oh, we want to get her a truck, But so we got to the reef, and I knew there was a channel in the reef, but the waves were blasting. I mean, it was like, when we talk waves, surfers have all kinds of waves. I'm going to tell you the face of the waves were like 6 to 8 foot faces of waves just crashing on the reef, shallow reef, dry reef. So then we started going down the coastline. I knew there was a channel, and there was I saw an opening in the reef. It was closing out every once in a while, but I could tell this is our entry. So we went through that entry, and it was about a mile from there. We finally got to shore, and all of the Fijians from that island, they all came running down, where are you guys coming from? What are you guys doing? Da-da-da-da-da. So a family, thankfully, adopted us. We took all our stuff up to their little grass house. It was very primitive. And then luckily we had food enough so we could provide them with food and ourselves. We didn't have to, eat their food. And so after dinner, Nicole, again, she comes up to me, and she says, Daddy, I want to tell you something. I says, what? And I'm still, just reeling from this experience of having almost lost everybody. I haven't recovered yet. And she says, Daddy, if we're ever going down, we're going to go down happy and laughing. We're not going to go down sad. Because she could see how fucked up I was in that moment. And she realized, hey, you know what? That's not how you go down. You're going to go down, fighting, charging, and not remorseful. And that was a great lesson for me to hear her say that at that age. And, to this day, we're very close. All of our family are very close. She always will remind me that part of her character that she has is a result of challenges that we went through doing epic shit. And same with Lauren. We had talking about our paddling trips, I had this great idea, doing epic shit trip. Let's paddle around the Big Island, but you got to go upwind. So we started in Kailua Kona. When you go up to Hilo, that's all upwind, and then you get the Hilo, you can kind of coast to Kumakahi, and then you can sail down along that Ka'u coast. So we got up to Waipio Valley, and just canoes don't go into Waipio Valley. You got to go through a shore break. We sailed in and set up camp there, and then I had the bright idea. We got to get up to Lapoihoi. It's about a 20-mile slug upwind, and it was blowing trades. It was blowing 12 to 15, 18 knots. So the Hawaiians would go at night sometimes because the winds were down. So I said, let's learn a lesson from the Hawaiians, and let's go tonight. So we left about 8 o'clock at night, punched through the surf. I mean, luckily we got through because you could see the waves very well.
And are you paddling through the surf to get
out? We're
out
paddling through the surf, and we start paddling upwind, and we had power bars. I'll never eat another power bar. But that was our food.
Yeah.
And so we paddled all night long, and if you let up paddling just the slightest amount, the canoe would start to swing,
right.
And then you had a hard time getting it back up into the wind. So you had to keep the power on and go straight into the wind. And so we finally got up to Lapoihoi the next morning, and everybody was exhausted, and that's when I experienced my first mutiny. So they said, okay, gang. Lauren, and they all ganged up. Says, Mike, we're not going 1 inch further upwind. We're turning around and going back. So I had no choice, and so we turned around and we sailed back to Waipio Valley, and we had a beautiful sail. We caught a nice big ulua, and we presented it to the Kia Franda, who was our kind of our host in the valley, Hawaiian guide in there. And he had a bunch of people there. He fed all of them. And then we sailed back to Kauai, and then we shipped the canoe back to Maui. But you know, talking, so that was something that Lauren still talks about and ribs me about, that trip where we had to paddle at night. And I don't know if you listen to the Yeti podcast, you can catch her on the podcast about, and she mentions that, and she also burns me a lot in that podcast. But she's
with love.
She's sponsored by Yeti, and she has a Leaning Into the Wind. You guys would like seeing that Yeti film. If you go on YouTube, you can see her. It's about 11 minutes, and it talks about her family, and it talks about her. She's quite an accomplished athlete, and she's also a very inspirational person. And some of the things that she's done to help people, fellow paddlers, young paddlers, and people in general. Spreading the Aloha spirit. Quite remarkable.
I've never taken a single paddle stroke in an outrigger canoe, but I think about that film quite often. And when I'm up against tough stuff, there's something about the look on Lauren's face in a couple of those shots.
Yeah.
It's like there's just nothing in the world that she is going to turn away from. She's going to get after it. And I love that about her. Haven't had the pleasure of meeting her yet. Hope to someday, whether it's hunting here or diving over there, something like that. But yeah, she's pretty incredible, and that was a really great film, one of the best that Yeti ever did.
She did this Texas water safari race with J.T. Van Zandt, and that's also on a Yeti Films. But that race was 2 days of torture, and they were doing it to get a badge, but it's a competition, and they won their competition. But the amount of grit that she exhibited in those 2 days, and kind of using the F word and almost blacking out, on some of the it's hot, mosquitoes, alligators, and it's just crazy trip. But that's another one that's pretty cool. But it's Lauren. Getting back to Lauren, when she was conceived, Jill and I, and she's pregnant, we did a canoe trip down the north shore of Molokai on our 3-man canoe, and so and we camped, and we ran out of food. We had to eat opihis, and luckily we caught fish, and we went down to Kalapapa.
Is that
it's a little mussel that hangs onto the rocks?
Like limpet, right?
Yeah, it's a limpet.
Yep.
But I that is really the beginning of Lauren's paddling career, is being in the womb of Jill while we went down this shoreline, this beautiful shoreline of Molokai, just absolutely magnificent. And I remember one morning waking up and hearing a rock fall, and so the rocks were falling off the cliffs and actually hit our canoe that was parked on the rocks in the beach there when we camped at Waikolu Valley. And also when we when we were walking along the coastline, we heard some rocks falling, and a goat had fallen off, I don't know, from 800 feet up or so, and hit. It sounded like a cannon going off. But that was kind of Lauren's first, before she was born, paddling experience that got her going. So, you were asking, one of the things we were talking about is boat wrecks. So, I gotta say that Fijian trip was, really, really amazing that we pulled that off. We also had another situation where we were approaching an island and we started to swamp, and swamping a canoe is not a good thing, but we were able to get the canoe dry and get to shore. But I remember the Fijian guy that we were with, Dolati, he was praying in Fijian that we wouldn't sink, and he was bailing like mad, and we pulled that off. Another time that we had kind of an interesting experience, we were sailing around Kaho'olawi, on the backside of Kaho'olawi. And again, if you get you get in trouble over there, you're going to get blown out, out into the big blue. And we're sailing down these 12-foot waves, catching these waves, and it was so much fun. And then all of a sudden we jibed and we flipped over. And so we started to, get the canoe popped back over again. We all climbed back in, and where's Nicole? The canoe was starting to sail away, and she was behind the canoe. So, grab the fishing line. So she grabbed the fishing line, and then we retrieved her. We pulled her in, got her on the boat, and we keep pulling the fishing line in. There was a mahi-mahi on the back of that. So we put that in the boat. I mean, you can't make this shit up, So we got the fish, and then we saw a turtle, came up. Mm-hmm. And so that's her aumakua. That's her sort of her savior, God. The aumakua is the turtle. So that was so we came into a little bay and got everything organized and continued on our journey, But those are the kind of experiences that my kids had to endure growing up with me as their scout leader.
What would Eddie Vedder say?
Eddie Vedder. So I mentioned this to you, so you brought it up, but we were sailing from Maui to Molokai, and it was windy. We shouldn't have gone, but we went. And Eddie wanted to come. Eddie had been hearing about our, canoe voyaging trips, and so he was dying to go on a trip with us. So, okay, Eddie, we're gonna come, and then we had another experienced paddler, this gal that wanted to come, and oh, can I bring my friend? So we had an extra seat. So we sailed over to Molokai, and we're trying to get upwind, and I had a guy named Pef on there that had heart surgery a few months earlier. He couldn't paddle. I didn't have any paddlers. Usually I have these young kids that can paddle, like Lauren and Nicole and their friends.
Yeah, they're the engine. They're the engine.
They can go all day long. But I never after that did I ever take inexperienced crew with me on the voyage. I learned my lesson. So we flipped over. We flipped over, and I was trying to ask this. I had this one gal who's not experienced, and we were in irons. And I said, "Okay, could you get out on the tramp? Get out. I want her to get out on the tramp." And I didn't say tramp. I says, "Get out," and she got ready to jump out of the. I said, "What are you doing?" I'm gonna get out. No, get on the tramp. But it was like, she wasn't experienced. I want people that you don't even have to tell them; they just do what they're supposed to do. But this was a situation where, so we didn't have the weight out there, and we got in the irons, and then the sheet line got tangled, and so we couldn't release the sail. And we flipped over. So we get the canoe back up, and everybody, all of us knew what to do. We get back in the canoe, except for Eddie and this one gal who couldn't swim very well. She was a gal that shouldn't have been on the trip. And so they're holding the paddles for flotation. We're in the canoe. We have a few paddles, and we're drifting away from them. And we try to throw the anchor, and the anchor line's tangled, and just it's compounded errors. And so luckily, my good friend Keith Baxter and his daughter see them in the water, and they go and rescue them. And they come and get us, and they tow us up to Honamuni, where we're going to camp. And we go ashore, and we had the most amazing celebration of survivalist. So we made a campfire, and we drank some wine. We ate some. We had fish. We ate some fish, and Eddie and I were the last two standing. Everybody left. And, I'll never forget this. He gives me a big hug, and he says, "Mike, I'll go with you anywhere." And I almost, lost him, and he's saying, "I'll go with you anywhere." And I was so stoked to hear that. And so I would say at any time we see each other again, it's Huggles for sure, for having, whenever anybody goes through an experience like that and lives through it, you're friends for life, you know. So that was a cool experience. We had another one, since we're on the subject.
Yeah.
We're sailing our vessel to Oahu to race it. And we had a gal from Molokai on board that we wanted to drop off at a beach called Mo'omomi. Now, Mo'omomi all beaches are different, but Mo'omomi has a trade wind swell that hits it, and it's steep. So we decide, okay, we're gonna just catch a wave in there and sail in there, and so we actually don't want to catch a big wave. We want to just kind of go in on the back of a wave if we can. But once we start getting into this broad reach, we can't slow us down, and we're on a wave, and it's nonstop right to the beach. We're flying, and we hit the beach, and with so much force that it breaks our two yakus, and the ama gets broken. And so we push up on the beach, push the boat up. Two of my paddlers had bailed out. One of them actually, jumping out, got caught on one of the lines and injured his knee, which was unfortunate. We get the boat up on the beach, we take it apart, and then I call up my Hawaiian friends, Adolf Helm and his son Kanoho. They come down and they help me, and they say, okay, how are we going to get the boat up to the car to get it to Kaunakakai? We got to ship it to Honolulu. And we don't have enough bodies to carry it. And plus, one of my crew members is injured, and they're all like, I don't want to do anything. We're done. But Kanoa says, okay, you know what? Let's push it in this. So we took it down to the sand, and in about 4 inches of water, where the waves, we just pushed it. It was like floating, just the hull. We pushed it, got it up on the truck. We put it on Young Brothers on the next day, shipped it to Oahu, borrowed some yakus, came from the Big Island.
What's a yaku?
Yaku is the connecting point for the flotation on the boat.
It's like a strut kind of.
Yeah. So we took it to Young Brothers, shipped it to Oahu, and put it together the next weekend and raced and won the race.
Really?
It was like amazing. It was amazing that we could have pulled it off and still, got the spare parts and everything and got that done. So that was an incredible experience. And I know Eddie Vedder acknowledged, the gal, Ashley Baxter and Keith Baxter at one of his concerts, and, he, gave me all kinds of albums and stuff of his music. Have you ever heard his stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like him?
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my boat crash experience on that one.
Tahiti or Fiji?
Tahiti.
Yeah.
Is we'd love to go to Tahiti.
Yeah.
What we've done in recent years, we've done bareboat charters. We talking about epic shit. We charter a catamaran down there and take the family and go fishing, diving, surfing. Made lots of friends in Fiji. When we go to Huahine, we have friends there that we're the party. We come ashore. It's okay. We're coming to your house to barbecue. We bring all the food and everything, and their friends come, and we just have the most fun. And Tahiti is a very localism place too, and like there's a place called Fete that is a really good surf spot, and the locals are very protective. If they don't like you, they just said, hey, go in, white boy or haole boy, and so I remember I went out there and I got dropped off. I'm going to swim back to our boat, and so I go out to the lineup, and there's all these heavy duty Fijian regulators out there, and I see Liz Clark, so I go up to Liz, says, hey, which guy is Smitty? Because Smitty's like the main regulator.
Mm-hmm.
So he's that big guy over there, so I swim up to Smitty, I put my hand out, and he shakes my hand. I says, hey, Jeff Johnson said to say hi, and Petey, no shit, hey, Mike, meet all these guys, because he had actually, when he was in high school, he stayed with Jeff on the North Shore and surfed and got to know, and he and his son worked together in carpentry. So hey, meet Mike, everybody, and so I got to know all those local guys, and and so that's how we roll. We try to bring the aloha spirit, and we're not, like if we go surfing, we take our turn. And I remember another place we surfed at. We had some stuff from Dakine, so we gave stuffed leashes and some board pads and things that they wanted to the locals, and they were always nice to us. They just kind of picked up the vibe. Hey, these guys are respectful, like some people go out and they'll try and catch every wave and paddle around you, and that's not how we roll. But yeah, Fiji is a great place. I remember Lauren was pregnant with her first, I think maybe it was her second child, Leia, and she was 7 months pregnant, and she was surfing Tavarua, cloud break. And I remember, I'll never forget watching her cutting out at shish kebabs and going up in the air and just twisting so she wouldn't land on her belly and landing on her back. And she said, I could feel Leia just cringing. The baby was cringing because she was, pushing the envelopes, surfing with her when she was quite pregnant. But yeah, we had lots of fun experiences at Tavarua and the Motu, family trips, surfing. In fact, Jim and I went to Numotu several times surfing, and he's a great athlete and a really good surfer, and he's the one that invited me to hunt here, Jim Kennedy, and
this is
he got
his ranch and his lodge, and I've guided for him for many years now, and
he had a great time surfing there and caught some fabulous waves, and he still thinks about how fun it was. One more hunting story.
Sure.
Okay, so Africa. So I met a guy from Australia that was formerly from Zimbabwe, Rhodesia back then, and I introduced him to hunting on Molokai. We had access to hunting on Molokai, so he called me up a couple years later. Says, Mike, my cousin has invited us to do the last hunt on their ranch in Zimbabwe. It's being expropriated by the government, the white government at the time. Apartheid was going strong, and they wanted, greenbacks. So they were going to take it over and try and sell safaris on this ranch. So I flew down there, and the guy that was hosting us was the cousin of my friend Rick Townsend, and Paul Halstead is his name. He's still down there, and so he's 22 years old, and he's no concern for our safety. He just is just like wild young buck. Let's just go and we had farm tags. We could basically shoot anything. So we shot some zebra and we kept the skins, but we hung the zebras up in trees for lions. And I went on a Cape buffalo hunt with a guide, and it's hard. You see like 40, 50, 80 Cape buffalo in a herd. It's hard to pick out the bull. They kind of look alike.
Yeah.
So anyway, I shot, and I wounded a Cape buffalo, and there's hardly any trees around. They're dangerous. They'll stalk you and kill you. They're a dangerous animal. And so we go and we stalk this animal. We want to kill it. We keep going, and he sees it out there, and he says, okay, there it is. So it's a pretty long shot for this. I was using I think it was a .450 caliber rifle, and so I'm having I'm shooting high because it's a 200-yard shot or so. So I shoot high. I nick the back of the supposed bull that I had wounded, supposed wounded.
Not elephant, Cape buffalo.
Cape buffalo.
Yeah.
So I nicked the back, and the shot goes into the ear of the calf. So two Cape buffaloes dropped dead like that. So we had meat to give to the villagers. Not the only one that's shot two with one shot, but that was kind of an interesting thing. So later on, we see the lionesses along, that are in the area. They're following the buffalo herd. So we see a lioness. We shoot. We wound a lioness. This is a full-grown 350-pound animal. Wound it. So we have to go and stalk it. So we get out, and one of the guys, the cousin that I took to Molokai from Australia, that formerly from South Africa, he decides that he will guard the truck. So he's going to stay back and make sure nobody nothing to do with it. He knows how dangerous it is to go after a wounded lioness. So we have my Paul, myself. We both have guns, and then there's one other guy that has a gun, and then we have our black guy with an axe. He's the bravest guy of all. He's our guide. So we start to stalk, and we see it, the wounded lioness, and we shoot, and it drags itself into the tall grass. So we go and we figure, you know what? We're going to let it die. We'll give it as much time as it needs to die. That we don't need to go in there. So we wait, and the other South African guy that's with us, he's up in the tree. So I'm from Hawaii. I don't know really what's going on. I'm hunting, axis deer all the time. I don't know what. But so the guy says, okay, I want to have a smoko. The 22-year-old guy, Paul Halstead. Let's go in and get him. So he comes out of the tree, and he's got, he's got the shorts on, and his knees are shaking. When I see that, I'm going, oh, shit. And at this point, I only have one round left. And so I said, hey, do you think I could borrow one bullet from you, So I get a bullet. So the bullet I had been gone in and out so many hunts that the actual head was compressed into the shell. So that's a defective shell anyway.
And it's something that's common with these big African cartridges, is that cartridge that's inside the magazine, due to recoil, is constantly getting smashed by the rifle, so that bullet compresses down into the brass. So
I put that, it was my second, and I put the other one in, I load that in, and we take it off safety, and we start to walk into the grass. And I know I have at least two bullets. And then we get about 10 steps from this tall grass where the lioness had gone into bed and die. And all of a sudden the grass moves like that, and a lioness comes out and literally just leaps at us. You can see the yellow in the eye, leaps at us to kill us for having killed the sister. And we all shoot, and fortunately, two rounds chested her, and one either came out the back or the third one might have gone in the back. And so then you're crapping in your pants. So I put the other round in. It jams, so I don't have any protection at this point.
You're out of gas.
We're out of gas. So here we have the lioness at our feet. Literally at our feet, dead. We go in. We find the other one dead inside, and so we had there's a bushman there, and we helped us get them all skinned out, and I have the skin at my house in my attic. That's where it belongs.
Yeah. And I just want to remind people that are feeling some kind of way about this that you need to consider what hunting was like when Zimbabwe was called Rhodesia, right? Like we need to think about things within the context of their times. Yeah, that's a crazy hunting adventure. That's doing epic shit.
Yeah, I'm sure that some of you listening to this podcast wish the lioness had finished us off, if you're a lion lover, but we got the better edge of it, thank God, to technology. But but I tell you what, when we were there, when we killed our water buck and our kudu and eland. All the meat went to the native tribes
right.
there. So we and
which is a big deal.
Yeah, and the people that we were with, they had Africans working for them, and they built a school so that the Africans could be well educated, and but it wasn't that many years after that Rhodesia, they gave up apartheid and they expropriated the farms, and Rhodesia back in the day was the breadbasket for Africa, and once they expropriated the farms and they had very corrupt rulership, it really went into great recession and poverty, and just to this day Rhodesia is a very broken country.
Yeah, tough times, and there's so many different sides to those stories all the time, and there's always an evil no matter what. But yeah, you've done a lot of incredible things. I've got to ask you though a couple things. One, what kind of truck did Nicole get?
She got a Tacoma.
She got a Tacoma. Yeah. The patron truck of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And two, what's the next adventure? What's the next epic thing you're going to do?
So I have to say that I want to just rewind last year, because we like I said, I'm a marathon swimmer. And so my buddies, we decided that we wanted to swim the Cook Straits. Now, Cook Straits between South and North Island. So last year, we finally got Phil Rush to agree to pilot us at the end of the season.
Of the Cook Islands?
New Zealand. So North and South Island, New Zealand. There's a channel between those two islands that's very rough. It's like 24 miles, 26 miles. And it's a hard swim to complete because of the currents and big fish, big current, cold water. And so we pulled that off, barely got across in 12 hours in a relay. And one of our relay members, we had 5 of us, one of the relay members had some issues with the cold water and couldn't continue, so he dropped out. The 4 of us had to pick up the slack. So to answer your question, the next epic adventure is those guys that I swam that channel with. They're coming back in October, and we're going to swim the 3 Maui channels in a relay. If we're going to go from Lanai to Maui to Molokai and back to Lanai. So that's our next epic adventure that we're going to do. And then we're hoping to go back to Tahiti this summer with the family. We also, this summer, we did 2 epic shet trips. We did a trip into Kalalau by kayak, all the grandchildren and my daughters, and we had 15 of us on that. Because we had some friends come along, and that was really super fun. Great experience for the kids to do. Get them off social media, get them in the water, swimming, kayaking, hiking in the valleys. And we also did a trip on the North Shore of Molokai with the family. We took some of our Molokai friends, and we spent 3 nights on the backside of Molokai, fishing and diving and hiking. So, yeah, I'm 77 years old, and I like to think that I'm trying to set an example for old people to, number one, be cheerful, be optimistic, be thankful for what you have, be gracious about the gifts that are given to you, and thankful for that. And also to just stay healthy and keep doing epic shet. And that's our motto. Just love being able to share my passion for the outdoors, for hunting, for diving, for surfing, for fishing, voyaging with friends and family.
Yeah, and take some risks.
Calculated risks.
Yeah, don't get too comfortable. Yeah. So, all right. Well, it's an absolute pleasure. I love these stories, and look forward to seeing you on Maui one of these days, or seeing you back here again.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for the opportunity to share some of these stories with you, and blessings to all of you and your families wherever you are listening to this, and do epic shit.
Yep. Agreed. Bye, everybody. I just want to take a second and thank everyone who's written a review, who has sent mail, who's sent emails, who's sent messages. Your support is incredible. And I also love running into you at trade shows and events and just out on the hillside when we're hunting. I think that that's fantastic. I hope you guys keep adventuring as hard and as often as you can. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and was digitized by Celia Harlander. Original music was written and performed by Justin Hay, and the Six Ranch podcast is now produced by Six Ranch Media. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the show, and I look forward to next week when we can bring you a brand new episode.